to our Facebook Live. It is Monday, November the 3rd, and I'm really glad you're here today. Jump in here in the comment section, say hello, tell me where you're from, and tell me what parenting style or styles you use right now with your children. Because we're going to talk today about how one size does not fit all in your clothing or in your parenting. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, my name is Pam Palanza. I'm a parenting mentor focusing on common sense behavior management for children age 2 to 12, neurotypical children, although a lot of what I teach would also apply for your neurodivergent children. Okay, so let's dive in here. Because I have a lot of followers. I'm on all 4 platforms, social media. I think I have like 750,000 total followers. And I'm hearing from them all the time with questions about parenting. Obviously, that's what I'm focusing on. But everybody's different. And they're like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? I feel guilty. I'm so frustrated. I feel angry. I get a lot of feedback, right? So it's very helpful for me because it helps me create content and Facebook Lives and other things I create for you all to help you out. So I know, and you may have in your life, bought something that says one size fits all. And then you're like, no, it doesn't. I'm swallowed in this thing. I'm like a burrito in this thing. Or, no, it doesn't fit me at all. It's way too small. That's exactly how parenting is. Now, as a parent, and I have 4 children, and I have 8 grandchildren, and I had 3 siblings. I have 3 siblings. We all are different. Our children are different in the same family, right? That's just how it is. So I remember my own children, I'll give you an example. One of them would jump out of bed first thing in the morning. Time to get up for school, up and at him. One I had to drag by his ankles almost out of bed, literally drag him by his ankles. He was 12. And he would hang on to the end of the mattress and I'd be trying to pull him out. This is after multiple times of trying to get him up. And then I have a daughter who needs like 3 and 4 alarms to get her awake. And that's just one example. But within your own family, your children are different. They have different temperaments. They have different ways they react and respond. They have different needs. And so as a parent, you need to figure out what parenting style is going to work best for your family, right? And I truly believe sometimes you have to kind of combine them a little bit and you have to tweak a little bit. Now, you have your foundation. I've done the whole foundational skills stuff, but you have your foundation in your family, which is your morals, your values, your ethics, and your expectations of your children. Those don't change. But what you need to tweak and what you need to maybe be a little flexible on is your approach. So you can have your parenting style, and it may work beautifully with one child, but with the other, maybe not so much. You have to kind of approach it a little bit differently. So for instance, you might have a strong-willed child that's like, this is the way it has to be. This is the way I want it done. They're very strong-willed, right? And they push that agenda. Then you might have a more sensitive child who just needs a little bit more like hand-holding, encouragement, reassurance. Then you have that one who's going to push every boundary that you have. You might have one right now. They're going to push every boundary you have. They're going to see what they can get away with, right? And they're the ones that kind of learn from their own mistakes. And you can tell them and tell them and tell them they don't listen, but they have to face their consequences of their behavior at some point. They learn the hard way. And that's okay. They're all different, right? Hey, Brenda. Okay. I'll tell you, let me just tell you, so there's 6 parenting styles. And I'm not going to go into depth on these because at the end I'm going to have a link to a handout. That was the weird sound I just heard. I don't know what that is. Oh, Brenda, thank you. She sent 50 stars. Thank you. I was like, what is that ding? I have my phone turned off. Thank you, Brenda. That was sweet. Okay. There's 6 parenting styles. There used to be 4, and then there's a couple added. Okay, so the first one is authoritarian, and that's like this is my house. You don't like it, get out. I'm the boss. Don't question me. Don't discuss it with me. I'm telling you what to do, and you do it, right? That's very rigid and authoritarian. Then there's the authoritative, and that's how I was raised. So it's very loving, very firm. Parents are in charge. We didn't question our parents. We did what they said because they were our parents. You had total respect and you never argued back. Well, let me just say, I had one brother who would. Talk about differences in children in the family. Here we go. Okay. And he would question things, but we weren't yelled at. We weren't spanked. It was just very much like, this is my house. You do what I tell you. But it wasn't like the rigid, harsh, mean stuff, right? And then there's common sense parenting. That's where I fall. And let me just say, authoritative is generally considered like the best style of parenting. And I do common sense, which is very much like authoritative, but also a little blend of gentle, where in my beliefs, you're in charge, you're the parent. There's consequences, there's expectations for behavior, there's respect that you expect. There's certain things that you don't budge on, right? Then there's gentle parenting. Now, let me just say, gentle parenting has a lot of similar aspects to common sense and authoritative. They're also a lot more about emotional regulation and about how children feel about everything or a lot of things. And I think gentle parenting gets a bad rap because people misunderstand it and take it too far the wrong way. And then that creates problems for everybody. And we're seeing a lot of that in our schools now. Then there's permissive parenting, which is do whatever you want. Sleep, get up when you feel like getting up. Eat what you want to eat, go to bed. I don't care what time you go to bed. Just do whatever. You want to jump all over the furniture, have at it. That's I call that free range parenting. And then there's the neglectful parenting, truthfully. It's just people don't care about their kids. They mistreat them. They don't care about them. That's often the times when you see DSS getting involved, or Department of Social Services, or CPS, or whatever you call it, wherever you live. Okay, so there's a kind of like this overview, a fast overview of the 6 styles. I do have a handout that you can get at the end. I'll put the link that kind of goes a little more detail for these, and actually a chart that considers different aspects of those types of parenting. Okay, so you have to decide for your family what works best for you. Now, let's just be real here. We typically parent as we were parented, good or bad, and I've said this before, because that's what we know. That's what's normal. And I have a lot of parents who have reached out to me because I'm doing this How to Stop Yelling workshop in like 10 days. And I've had parents say, that's how I was raised. I was yelled at about everything. And that's just what I did with my children because that's all I knew. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And now my children are doing it to their children, my grandchildren. And now I'm seeing, oh man, I screwed up. Okay. Or I have people that say, I was yelled at or raised whatever way they were raised, and I didn't like it. And so I took the time and the effort and the energy to figure out how to do something different. I invested in myself and in my children, and I've changed it for my family. Okay, and I'm like, way to go. That is tough. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. So think about this as we're talking. Is the way you're parenting right now working for you? Right? And you don't compare it to your friend or your sister or your neighbor because it's your child you're raising, not theirs. And you can ask them for input, obviously have discussions about parenting, but ultimately you decide what's best for you and for your family. And we're going to go here in a minute and how to figure out how that works for you all, because guess what? Here's the deal. I was raised in a time, and I raised my children in a time without social media. And I'm like really happy about that, even though I'm on it every day. Because there is so much noise out there telling you how you should be doing it, why you should be doing it, when you should be doing it. It's overwhelming. I just get overwhelmed thinking about it. You have social media, you have podcasts, you have TV shows, there's all these streaming things. There's just books coming out left and right. It's exhausting. And you have to kind of read through all that and just figure out what works best for you and your family. Other people don't have to like it. I mean, unless you're being abusive, we're talking a different story there. But other people don't have to like it. It may not work for their children, but it works beautifully for yours, right? And that's what you have to focus on. What works for your child, your children. And again, you might have some differences in the household, but figure it out what works best for you. All right, let's get into this because we only have like 5 minutes left here. 5 ways to tell, and 5 ways to figure out what works for your family. Number 1 is you have to know your children's temperaments. Are they easygoing? Are they slow to warm up? Are they a little shy? Or are they like jump in and do it? You have to know the temperament of your children. That's very important. And like I said, you're probably going to have some differences there. Even though they're raised in the same household, they're not all the same. I know my kids aren't, and my grandchildren aren't. Be consistent, not rigid. Now, there's consistency. That's security for your children. Rigidness, mm-mm. Okay. In my household, my dad and mom were the parents. We knew that. But there was not a whole lot of flexibility in things like my father would say, children should be seen and not heard. And you're going to cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Which neither of those make any sense to me. But I think that was the generation they were raised in, right? They parented as they were parented. My father and mother didn't spank us. So I don't know what he meant. He'll give me something to cry about. It was just a saying, I guess. And children should be seen and not heard. I think opposite of that. In fact, I get paid now to talk. For years in my career, I get paid to talk. So, yeah, that kind of backfired. For me, it's been a bonus, but right? So you have to be like Gumby. For those of you who know who Gumby is, if not, Google it. You have to be willing to be a little bit flexible in your approach to parenting. It can't always be so rigid and firm. Listen more than you lecture. And I just did a reel about this last week where my father would sit us all down. My father was really the disciplinarian in the house for the most part, but he would sit us all down if one of us did something wrong and have these long conversations about them. They probably really were only 15, 20 minutes, but to us, it felt like hours. And he would go on and on and on about why we did things and how do we feel, and it was exhausting. And great, we learned a lot from it, but truthfully, a lot of it we tuned out. We were in our heads going, la, 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 la. Oh, I wonder when I can get back outside. I wonder if Johnny's on his bike yet, if I'm going to be able to find Susie when I get back outside. We're not really. Children don't need lectures. They need that connection. They need you talking to them, with them, not at them. All right, that makes a big difference. And then stop comparing your child to your sister's child, your neighbor's child, your friend's child. Stop comparing not only your parenting styles, but your child. Because every children are different, and it doesn't make any sense to compare your child against the neighbor's because you don't know what's going on in that household. You don't know how those children are truthfully being raised. So don't waste your energy on that. Okay, and then, of course, this is a no-brainer, you have to adjust as they grow. Now, you're still keeping your core foundation, the morals, the values, the ethics, the expectations, but now you have to adjust them because as they grow and develop and are more capable and independent and responsible, you change things up. Okay, so you have to, again, have that flexibility and be willing to make those adjustments. If you are the parent who expects one size to fit all, you are going to be frustrated and angry. Your children are not going to be happy, and it's going to create this just giant ball of disharmony, let's call it, because it doesn't work. One size does not fit all. And there are times you're going to have to kind of sort of combine parenting styles, like I did with Common Sense Parenting. I love a lot of the authoritative, but there were some things about it I didn't care for. And the gentle parenting, there's a lot of great things about gentle parenting. I'm not a huge fan of it because people misconstrue it and take it the wrong way. But a lot of that, the emotional regulation with your children, teaching them to name their feelings, we weren't ever taught that. No one cared how we felt, right? You just did what you were told. So I love that combination. So I tweak it and created Common Sense Parenting, which is nothing new, but it's what I talk about every day. You decide what's going to work for your family, okay? And sometimes you may have to tweak a few things there. And please remember this. And I say this all the time, parenting is not about perfection. It is not, because it's not, that doesn't exist. Stop trying to be the perfect parent. Stop it, okay? Because you're wasting your energy. And there's no need to do that, okay? All right, so I'm going to go look at the comments in here, but real quick, I'm going to put in the link for the parenting style thing, so you all can grab it. Store, here we go. I'm sorry, I can't talk and think at the same time. And I'm going to tell you too real quick, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but I have gotten several questions about this. People have asked me, and more than one person has said, what is that thing hanging on your neck all the time? Let's see if this popped up. Let's see if the thing for the parenting styles popped up. Hopefully it did. There it is. Okay, it popped up. So this, I wear this except when I'm in water, so from the pool or the shower, I take it off. But this was, my mother passed in July of 2024, and I have her ashes in here. I don't know if you can see those. Probably not, but her ashes are right there. And so I wear this around my neck, and it's always, this is it. That's all I wear. So I have it on. So that mystery is solved. That's what that's about. Okay. So the link is in here for the parenting styles. Like I said, it's like a 2-page handout that kind of goes into more detail. Of course, do research, read books, listen to podcasts, talk to people, all that kind of stuff. If you don't like the way you were raised, if you don't like what you're doing currently with your children, you have the ability to change it. You have the ability to change it. Invest in it. Take the time. Okay, we have Brenda. Again, Brenda, thank you for the stars. Susan, a grandma, 3.5-year-old, 9-month-old. Bless you. Debbie Hay, July. Oh, I love the name. Hi. Beth. Yes. Okay, Beth, you are so right. Beth said having social media can be a blessing and a curse. And I agree. I mean, I'm on it every day, right? I learn a lot. I watch other people's reels. I learn a lot from social media. So it can be a blessing, but you have to temper it. You have to control that because it can be overwhelming. And your children shouldn't be on it all the time. We know that. Okay. All right, y'all. Time to hop off. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, remember, hug and love your babies.